Hello, writers and crafters. I'm Valerie Isan.
And I'm Eric Mertz.
And this is episode 98 of the podcast. It is January 4th, 2023. As we record this, Happy New Year, Eric.
Happy New Year, Val.
Our main topic today is game changers. And we'll get into more about what that is in a moment. We don't have any new patrons this week, but thanks to our existing patrons for believing in us and in the podcast. For as low as $1 a month, you can get a postcard from me, a shout out on the podcast. We can make announcements for you, and other tiers, the benefits increase. Go to patreon.com/Valerie Isan, IHSAN. We've got a comment from episode 95, a year in review. Mary says, a very nice discussion. I especially like the advice you both give to yourself for the upcoming year. And she also had some topic suggestions for us and for the patrons too. So I shelved those. I put those in the appropriate spot. Yeah, we actually had a couple of other people email in for comments, either for the 100th episode or for like topic suggestions for next year. So when we have our meeting, then we can, start bringing those up and assigning them to dates and stuff. So we'll have to have another meeting. Announcements. The Author Action Plan group coaching started yesterday on the 3rd. It goes for 3 months, ends on April 4th. So you've just missed the first one. You can still join the cohort this week if you don't mind having missed out on that first episode or first session. It's $500, but podcast listeners get a 10% discount, making the cost $450. Just use the discount code podcast at checkout. And I think it's all caps, but I'm not sure. Another announcement, I have a female writer looking for another female identifying writer to share lodging at the retreat. The shared retreat ticket price is $650, includes all the food, lodging, instruction, retreat, coaching, etc. And just email me, Valerie@valerieisan.com for questions or to get the PayPal link for the shared retreat ticket. So yeah, early bird price is still in effect for the tickets, $800 for a single, and monthly payments are an option. So keep on sending us topic suggestions. Those are really helpful, and give us an idea about how you want the trajectory of the podcast to go, like what interests you and what you want to learn about and what you want us to chit chat about.
Right. And even if it's something we've discussed before, maybe something, a new angle on an old topic. We've discussed that. We have conversations about topics, but we certainly don't exhaust all the possibilities
no,
of
not
those
at all.
podcasts.
Sometimes we can only touch on them, we only have time to touch on them sometimes. Or if you have a person that you would like us to interview, you can let us know that too, and we can try to work some magic around that.
Be realistic, though. We're not going to get Stephen King's not coming on this podcast. No. I'll try, but
he doesn't come on any podcast, I don't think.
No. His Twitter's enough, so he doesn't need to say much more. What are you reading?
Well, I read 67 books last year, Eric.
Yeah. Oh, yay. That's great.
I added them all up, and I finished reading the day book from 2022. That was Simple Abundance, 365 days of blah, 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 blah. So I chose a new day book for this year, and that's Meditations from the Mat, Daily Reflections on the Path of Yoga. Okay. So I'm hoping it will inspire me to, move my body more. But the book the novel that I'm reading is Una Out of Order by Margarita Montemore.
Interesting.
It was actually a suggestion from a customer at the bookstore. She always liked my staff picks, so she said, have you read this one? Because, based on my staff picks, she thought I would like this book. So that is what I am reading. Una Out of Order.
I love staff picks. I really do. Whenever I go to Movie Madness, my local video store, the only local video store left in Portland, I always pause to look at the even though I'm going in there looking for something, I like that. And occasionally one jumps the stack, right? Because if Steven likes that movie, and I like Steven, then maybe I need to watch the movie he likes. So
Yeah.
love the staff pick.
My update, Rachel Herron got back to me with the book blurb on the memoir.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
super excited. She wrote a lovely story told with poetic lyricism and gentle humor. You Can't Dance a Lie is more than a memoir of love and relationships. It's the chronicle of a woman learning to trust herself completely before stepping into the love-shaped life she makes possible for herself.
That's pretty great.
Right? I
Congratulations.
thought
Yeah.
that was super awesome. So yeah, Rachel Herron, bestselling author of A Life in Stitches. I've read that book 2 or 3 times. It's really great. So
Wow.
I've ordered sample copies from Ingram so
Okay.
I can decide what type of hardcover I want to do. So I'm getting some like cover samples, I guess, and paper samples because I've not done a hardcover before, and there's like 3 different kinds that you can get. So I want to know what those all feel like, look like, that sort of thing. And I started formatting the large print edition of the memoir.
Good thing. Good job. Wow.
So I have a lot of, well, I'll get into that in our main topic. But what are you
Right.
reading?
Well, I am my son and I are reading the Earthsea trilogy, well, the Earthsea series
Mhm.
by Ursula K. Le Guin, which is it's so wonderful to read. It's just that book from my childhood that like when I reread it, more so than The Hobbit and any of that other fantasy, it just brings me back to feeling like, a 10 or 11-year-old boy. So we just finished The Tombs of Atuan. We are going to start reading The Farthest Shore tonight. Um, so yeah, this is just like one of the best things I did last year was I sort of jumped the Harry Potter series in our father-son reading time and just started
Mhm.
adding in some of my favorite fantasy stuff, and it's just been really rewarding to
And he was
yeah.
okay with like stepping out of Harry's world, or did you finish that series?
We're 5 books in,
Okay.
and I think I pulled out of it at first because the books were just getting so long,
Yeah.
and we do read regularly. I do still read to him every night, so that's like I probably read to him 4 to 5 nights a week. So we
Mhm.
do get a good rhythm going. But I think there was a period in time, the summer is so out, you're so out of your schedule. I think in the
Mhm.
summer we lost track of that last book. And I felt like I was just reading words on a page and I wasn't engaged in the story. Um, because it
Plus,
was just,
Elijah's 8, right?
yeah,
So Goblet of Fire, I think I mean, he's getting pretty old, right?
yeah, yeah. He definitely, I think, I think when we read the first one, he hadn't been in in-person school for very long.
Mm-hmm.
And I could tell that it was a little like the idea of going to school and that idea of just like, Harry's trying to fit in and find his place. And I think that was
Mm-hmm.
pretty foreign to him. But now, he's a full-on second grader in a class. And so I think it may be over his head as far as the age group, but it's definitely I think he finds a peer in Harry in the
Mm-hmm.
fact that they're in school. But yeah, I just had to jump some of the longer books because, he'd never experienced any of the Hobbit, never experienced any of the Earthsea books. So yeah, bringing him into that world's been great. He loves the
Cool.
language of it,
Nice.
which is what Ursula K. Le Guin is. I mean, that's just a master work in sort of poetic fiction. Um, so he really gets into that. Some of her sentences get a whoa from him, which is
That's awesome.
so, oh yeah, like it's got to talk about like
I just
little
got
spine
goosebumps.
tingling.
I
Yeah,
know.
definitely goosebump moments. Um, so yeah, that's what we're reading together. And then I started reading The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones, which was a pretty big horror book from 2021. Um, there's
Stephen
a new
with
one,
PH or is it with a V?
Stephen with a PH, Graham Jones. It was generally like one of the bigger. I mean, horror is in fiction is such an odd genre, but um, it was the big horror book I think in 2021, and there's a new one coming out next month. and I'll talk about why I'm reading this book in anticipation of the one coming out next month a little later in the main topic. So yeah, I'm just a chapter into it. It's got a really nice flow to it. It's like a rollicking kind of read. And I tend to like Native American stuff. I've always loved Sherman Alexie, and there from 2020 was a great, a great book. So I definitely like. I love that I love the Native American storyline, and I can tell immediately that this book is like predominantly a Native American story with there will be a horror take on the Native American story, which I like. And then as far as just author updates, I guess that's more of what our main topic is today, but I am updating all of the newsletter stuff based on, I had a consultation with a woman in Sweden. I didn't know she was in Sweden until we got on the phone, and then I learned she was a consultant from Sweden. She gave me a massive list of things to do to my mailing list to make it more effective. So I'm slowly implementing those.
Okay.
But the big thing is that I need a new reader magnet. We definitely determined that I didn't have myself sort of positioned the right way with how I was introducing my series to readers, and then incentivizing them to buy. So I am now writing a reader magnet to go in my, to be the magnet for my newsletter. So, but that will be more of our part of the main topic as well.
Yeah. You use MailerLite, right?
I use MailerLite.
Okay, because I have a ConvertKit question, so I'll have to find somebody else, Eric.
What is? Oh yeah, MailerLite. I chose it because it was the easier of the two between that and MailChimp to like just get the newsletter looking good. I think you can definitely, if the learning curve is steeper with MailChimp, you could end up with a better looking newsletter, but I was having such a hard time with it. And so I just decided to go with MailerLite, and I kind of like it. They keep offering me this new updated MailerLite, and I'm going to have to decide if I'm going to stick with it. I'm doing so many new things with the newsletter. I can't see myself now, switching services again. So I probably will stick with them for at least another year.
All right. Well, let's get into the main topic.
Let's do it.
I'm calling this a game changer because at the beginning of each month, I like to go through sort of my either a list I have written down, or the list that's in my head of the things that are kind of on the horizon for this month. And I like to pick one, maybe two, that I feel like would just be a game changer for me. Like it would make the biggest difference to my business life or personal life, whatever. And it's the biggest. Yeah. And then break that down into steps and stick them in my planner. So that's why I thought we would use the word game changer. And I got that, of course, from Passion Planner. That's what they use. That's their terminology, not mine. So do you want to go first? What do you have? Okay.
Yeah. So for this month, I have to split my time and attention, I think, between, there's two businesses that I run. I run an author business, which is, I would define as fledgling. It's still, as I just alluded to, still working out the basics of things like newsletters, not the basics, but like I'm taking that step from basic to intermediate and advanced in the newsletter. I need it to be a functional part of the business. So I think of the author business as more fledgling, but I also have a fully formed author services business. And so when I look at my any month, I have to look at it as like, what am I doing to keep the train moving and the income coming in the author services business, and then while putting my author business in the position to thrive more than it does. And so I'm always looking at two different things. And sometimes I feel like I'm in one of those old cartoons, where you've got the devil and the angel on the shoulder, and they're both trying to, they're both talking to you, trying to get you to do something. And so I really always have to balance my months that way. from the author services business side of my business, one of the things that drives my business is I create content for my website. So I'm doing two things this month, like relevant to that. One of those is I set up the quarter one for newsletter. Like, what newsletters am I going to, or sorry, what blogs am I going to write? What topics am I going to cover? I'm going to, for the quarter, and I'm going to start executing that plan. I've got a blog to put out every week. And then I have like a small mailing list of people that I send those out to. I am also, at the same time as I'm doing that, because that's what I've been doing for years. I've been putting out regular blogs for, I would say, at least since COVID started. That's when I really got into a good routine with the blog. I'm also looking at developing some extra content. So like, there are no ghostwriting podcasts. There's very few ghostwriters on YouTube. So I'm also committing a lot of that mental time and energy to developing a presence there. What am I going to do to find that niche? And when you're doing ghostwriting, the client, the return on investment is large enough so that you really, like, something only really needs to be successful once or twice for it to pay off. So that's like, it's a lot of long-term thinking, because if I get one book, that's enough. That's like half of my work for a year, right? If I get 3 screenplays, that's half of my work for the year. So I only need to convert a few of my good ideas, or my good ideas only have to convert a couple of times for them to work out. So that's sort of the business planning side. And then I have multiple projects that are in the last legs. So this month I have 3 screenplays that are I need to get over the line. So I am finishing three projects that have just been sitting on my desk for a while. Part of that is client needing to take time. Part of that is me not having the bandwidth to do it. So in my business side, that's what my month looks like. What about you?
Well, I was trying to make mine look like yours, like structure it like yours, but I thought about it differently. So I'll just go through my process instead of making it look like yours. So in true form, I wrote down the 4 things that I wanted to accomplish this month on a list. And then this is why breaking it down into steps is so vital. As I was doing that, I realized there is no freaking way that I can accomplish even 2 of these in 1 month. And partly that's because I am leaving for Costa Rica on the 24th, and today is the 4th. So I only have like 2 weeks and 5 days for this month, really.
Right.
So what I had originally on my list, are you ready for a laugh? So publish memoir, because up until now, that has been the plan, was to launch in January. Write a short story, also deadline by the end of the month. Finish client work and pack and get ready for Costa Rica. So all of those things, individual, like even just packing and getting ready for Costa Rica, that could take a couple weeks.
Right.
So, and I have not written a short story before. So writing one, revising it, getting it into a place where I could turn it in to the editor for the anthology is laughable. But, I really want to be in the part of me was like, should I just drop it? Like, it's kind of ridiculous. I don't have a lot of time. It's not my wheelhouse, but I really want to be in this anthology, and it's really stepping out of my comfort zone. And if they hate it, then they won't put it in, but at least I would have submitted. And so I want to go ahead and do that. So then I started looking at published memoir, and I started looking at what actually still needs to be done. And here was the clincher. There are 2 times where I have to wait for somebody else to get back to me. And I don't know how long that will take. I can estimate 2 weeks each time, which is what was finally oh, okay, well, yeah, there's no possible way I can publish the
Right.
memoir. If I have to wait for the first one, I have to wait for is to get the paper samples from Ingram. I can't send in the spine size to the cover designer to get the print cover until I know like what paper I'm using. And yeah, so I have to wait for Ingram to get back to me with the paper samples, the cover samples. And then once I send even if I like that day send an email to the cover designer with all the relevant information, it might be another 2 weeks before she gets back to me with the cover. You know what I mean? Which I would have to approve and maybe, oh, can you tweak this thing? So I decided painfully last night that I would push the launch to March 1st, because I think that would give me enough time to get back from Costa Rica, gather my, thoughts or whatever, find out what balls had dropped while I was gone, catch up and re-engage with whatever else I need to do, for pre-launch activities at the end of February. So that means for the month of January, then I am going to. So I am still going to have to work on the memoir. So there's like the first 7 steps. On a fantastic day, I could estimate taking like 4 hours. So it is possible, not this week, because I'm already full, but it's possible that I can finish those things before I go to Costa Rica.
Right.
So I'm going to do some tasks on the publishing checklist for the memoir for this month. Just basically get it up to, waiting for the paper samples. So I can do some of the other things while I'm waiting for those paper samples. And then I can write this short story. And so I've broken that down into, if I write the rough draft like this weekend or something, then next weekend I can do a little diagnostic on it and revise it. And then the following weekend I can do the line edits through Pro Writing Aid and then turn it in before I leave for Costa Rica, and then finish client work again. I'm going to have to be working because I'm still at the bookstore this month. So I'm going to be working some Saturdays and nights this month before leaving for vacation, which, I mean, that sounds pretty normal to anybody's vacation, whether they're self-employed or not. Like if you're going to go on vacation, you got to batch up a bunch of stuff and get a bunch of stuff ready for you to be gone so that somebody else can take over for you or whatever. So that's basically where my headspace is for January, is just write this short story and then finish up what little things I can do and get ready for, I can pack all in one weekend. I don't like doing that, but it involves lots of laundry.
Well, you don't have to wait 2 weeks for someone to get back to you for that task, right? That's when you can kind of,
yeah, I can slide that one in. So that's kind of my headspace for this month.
Yeah, and it's hard to make that plan when you have a vacation. It's hard to make any plan in general, but vacations and sort of, when you have those life roadblocks, it's hard to integrate that into your plan. And because I think you and I are kind of similar in that we both get very ambitious about what we're going to do with our time. And I sort of get ambition leads the charge. And then after that, like I have the humbling reality check.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I didn't talk about author business, but from the author business side, like last month I made this list of things. I was going to finish the short screenplay that I started in November. I was going to finish rewriting the novel. I was going to do the outline for this, and I was going to do the outline for that. I got 2 of those things done. I didn't recognize how disruptive Christmas was, and I don't want to think about the holidays as merely disruption. So I had to put myself into some real check. So this month I'm just being more realistic and saying I'm going to finish the newsletter book. I'm going to finish the cookie. I'm going to get the cover finished for that as well. I better at least get initiated. I'd love to launch that in the middle of March. That's kind of my goal. I'd like to really start rebuilding newsletter numbers in March, because the consultant gave me a lot of really great strategies for how to build. She actually gave me really great strategies on how to build the newsletter from the outside and how to build it from the inside. She did gave me a lot of advice on how to market your newsletter to your existing subscribers. So a lot of the business plan stuff that I was coming up with for January was implementing this. And so I mentioned that I'm reading The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. One of the things my consultant said was, you need to be giving away things to your existing readers that incentivizes the click, right? Because that's what, as if now we're going to get into analytics and stuff, but Google, when it is delivering your email to different recipients, it looks at click rate, right? So if your email has a higher click rate, then Google's more likely to deliver it to a person's primary email instead of just dumping it in the spam or in the social, or so it helps prioritize your email. So one of the things that she suggested was every month, if you send out 2 newsletters a month, which is the frequency that I like, she said one of those you need to give something away, like give away a copy of your book, give away an ebook, give away and she said, find a book that's coming out in your genre and give away a copy of it to your readers. Anybody who clicks this link gets entered into this drawing. So when I'm thinking of,
is this like an ad? Are you talking about this is an ad, a pay-per-click ad?
No, she actually recommended just making that like part of the newsletter subject. Like, I'm giving away 5 copies of this book, or and then inside your newsletter, right, there's, hey, click this link here and you'll be entered into this giveaway. Now, they can click the link anywhere. It can go anywhere as long as they click the link. But what MailerLite and Google recognize is, wow, a large percentage of the readers click links in this email. It must not be spam. It must be legit email. So she said, you have to train you get people onto your mailing list, and then you train your recipients, your subscribers, to open your newsletter. That's what most people miss. You have to train your readers to open the email and then keep going. So I am going to be in February. You've heard it here first. I'm going to give away multiple copies of Stephen Graham Jones' new book to my subscribers, and that will hopefully, that's been something that's missing. Like, I think when I went into this newsletter revamp, I was looking at my click rates, and like my click rates were 5% or 3% on topics that I would have assumed my readers would enjoy, right? And so I guess I've learned that you continue to market to those people. She said, most people have 10 to 15 newsletters they subscribe to. You need to make sure that they read yours. So on the author business plan, it's really getting this newsletter thing right. It's getting the right thing out to incentivize subscribers. It's the right pattern of things to incentivize opens. Something that I've been really shy about doing, and anyone who listens to this podcast would be surprised, I don't make my newsletter as personal as I should. I don't, and I looked at a lot of successful newsletters. She sent me like a dozen of them, and I said, wow, look at every one of these people opens up with pictures of themselves on a ski weekend, or pictures of themselves at a book signing, or so. I've always felt that was a little, I felt like that was for my benefit. If I were to do things like that, I'm now recognizing that's what people want. People want to know about you. They want you to be different than just someone who puts out paper. So
I have a hard time knowing what to send to patrons and what to send to newsletter subscribers.
Oh boy, I'm about to have that problem, right?
And the best stuff, I think, should go to the patrons because they're paying you. But the next good thing, would go to the newsletter subscribers, and then the rest would be like social media. And so I don't know if like it should, because eventually you want your stuff to go to all or at least
right.
yeah. So so then it becomes like an early access thing. Like, do I have the patience to like give patrons something a month ahead of time? I'm done with
Right.
this thing and I want to put it out in the world, but patrons get it first. So they get it for a month or 2 weeks or whatever,
I'm
and go
I'm
down the
wrestling with that.
line. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't quite like there's a lot of early access stuff, and people, creators and like receivers, people that are patrons of other authors, tend to enjoy the benefit of early access.
Right.
I don't see that as a huge benefit. I mean, it's cool. Yeah, I'm in the know. I know stuff before other people, but actually, it's also kind of a pain because, for instance, if it's an early release of a podcast, that means I listen to it on Patreon and then it comes into my regular podcast feed. And then I've already listened to this, and then I have to,
Right.
so it's kind of actually weird. Or like it shows
Well,
up. Yeah. So I don't
yeah.
know how to be there and have a thriving Patreon community and give patrons what they want, and do that too, but differently for the newsletter
Yeah.
subscribers.
Yeah.
And I haven't quite figured out what that looks like or means yet. I keep trying out new things, but I don't know.
Well, yeah. And anyone, I'm launching my Patreon account on the 24th. That's my go date. And I recognize that same struggle, right? So I'm not going to release Patreon stories to my newsletter necessarily, because early on, I recognize that a significant percentage of my Patreon subscribers are going to be newsletter people, because that's how I'm going to the first people I'm going to market it to are my newsletter people. And I'm I'm just hopeful that let's say 100 people or 50, let's say 50 people, that's more realistic. That would be like 2%. Like if 50 people subscribe to it, that would be great.
That
And
would be
so
amazing. I've been doing mine for years and I have like 10.
I'm crossing my fingers.
Me too. I'm going to be a patron. As soon as you make it live, I'm going to be right there.
And I recognize that there's this, there is that going to be that overlap for at least some of it, because some of the things that the consultant recommended is that she says, well, you need to have a work in progress that you're giving to your newsletter. That's a great incentive. Give them a chapter of something every month, or give them a chapter of something every 2, or like that. But that's one of my Patreon incentives, is I will give you. So I have a work project, something that I've written, but I would love to get it done. I'm just going to use that as the work in progress that I give the Patreon subscribers. But it's also kind of what I thought I would give my newsletter people. So, but where I'm giving myself a bit of a break on the anxiety around that is there. Even though I subscribe to, there are very few podcasts that the minute it comes into my feed that I listen to it right away. There's very few things that rise to that level of urgency. Most of the things I get it on Patreon, or I see it on Apple Podcasts, and then I'll get the notification I'll see them on social media. I need multiple prompts to do things. And ask my family, it's the same thing. I need multiple prompts to do a lot of things. So I feel like I'd rather have that problem where I'm more places, and people are seeing me more places, and they're getting more, they're being urged in from multiple places to check me out. I think it's harder when you're only on one stream and you're counting on that one stream. This is just this is January. We'll revisit this in June. But I really feel like I will address that problem in a more creative, methodical way when I start to see that there's less overlap between Patreon subscribers and newsletter people. If it gets to June and let's say I've got 50 subscribers on Patreon. Now I feel like self-conscious because I threw out a number 50, like I'm going to get 50 right off the bat. But let's say I have 50.
I hope you do. I think that's awesome.
If I have 50 if I have 50 by June, and 25 of them are from my newsletter, and 25 of them I got through social media and elsewhere, then I'll have to look at it like, okay, how am I marketing this? I have to think of at least half of the people on my Patreon stream which at that level would be providing a few $100s a month, are unique, and some of them are common. So am I really incentivizing everybody? It's hard. The whole idea of incentivizing someone with my unfinished fiction is such a weird thing, right? Because aren't we as writers supposed to feel like those are the dirty little secrets that we don't let anybody see other than an editor? Like, I'm going to now let 2,000 people read a chapter that I'm not confident enough to publish,
to publish.
to incentivize them to read the things that I think are good. I mean, it's such a weird relationship, but I think that's something I have to get over. Like, the relationship is, it's not what it used to be. You know, it's not what it used to be. We are in a content marketing world. And so use the content.
Amen. All right.
Amen.
Amen. Well, I will look forward to, what comes of, we'll have to check in next month then and see, like, did we accomplish what we set out to accomplish? And
So, questions for you before we go. So your anthology, what anthology is this?
This is Tsunami Press. The Tsunami Bookstore has a press now, and last year they published their first book, sold out of their first printing, and it was a memoir written by Ken Babbs, friend of Ken Kesey, the Merry Pranksters, that Grateful Dead scene. Yep. So he wrote his memoir. Well, he called it a burlesque, a remembrance, so it was maybe a little bit vaguer than a memoir. He was very upfront about that. So so the next book that Tsunami Press wants to publish is an anthology of work from bookstore employees throughout the years, because they've been in business for 27 years. So the owner reached out to, past employees. So it'll be a compilation, an anthology of poetry and short stories and the like.
Cool.
So kind of a journal, I guess. So like a literary journal anthology.
And there's a topic we can come up with, like identifying markets and how to, there's a lot. This comes up a lot in parallel play. We talk a lot about, when you see a market that you want to be in, is it best to write a story for that market like right away? Or is it more, is it better to have a well of stories that you can draw from? Like, how do you get to that? Like, how do you address markets? And I see people, I don't know the answer, but I definitely see people who are saying like, hey, I want to hit that market, I'm going to write this thing for it. And other people who say that's not a great idea. But I think when I want to be somewhere, I just have to try, right? You have to. Yeah. I think that's really important.
All right. Well, it was great talking with you this week. I'm excited about your game changer plans for January. And
likewise, especially the fact that you get to go to Costa Rica.
That's my game changer.
That's your big game changer.
I'm going to go soak up sun and warmth, and I can take off the wool sweaters, and it's really foggy and like wet out here right now and gray. So that's depressing for me. And I spent, an hour in front of the happy light this morning. So I won't have to get one of those. Yeah, it's a lifesaver. Lightsaber. It's a lightsaber. Okay.
Have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.